So, hello everyone. Today we are at our last lesson on prayer, Tfilah, and I want to deal with only three topics, but these are topics that usually take, semesters in the university. Liturgical changes in prayer, and the whole notion of the ability to make changes in a prayer that's ancient and that's been there for thousands of years. Like, who are we to make changes in a prayer that's, been set in stone by the rabbis for thousands of years? Can we make changes in liturgy, in our prayers? Okay, that's one topic I want to talk about. The other topic is about ancient Israel liturgy and the Cairo Genizah story. Okay, this is like its own topic. It's like 2 semesters to teach. I will actually have a class about this. Not this year, maybe in 2 years from now. I will have 3, 4, maybe even 5 lessons about the Cairo Genizah. And until then, please go and read the book, Sacred Trash.
Trash?
Sacred Trash. Okay? I think my mother's might have the book. Maybe she could open the camera and show it. She reminded me about it today. It's a great book. Sacred Trash. It's like a whole novel, actually, about the Cairo Genizah. It's a fascinating story. And if we have time, we will also deal with the small question of, does God answer prayer? Okay. And that's a bigger topic. I didn't want to, and that's a more theological question. I'm not leaving it a lot of time today because I really feel, that the focus of this class is more, like beyond the basics on Judaism, like understanding more like the different laws and the structure of, the Jewish customs, and now we're dealing with the Jewish prayer. So, yeah?
I have a question. Is there a mandatory mitzvah from the Torah to pray?
So that's a very good question. Basically, the rabbis say that there is, that you need to pray, 3 times a day, and those opinions say it's because of the prayers that our forefathers did, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Shacharit, the morning prayer, is following Abraham's prayer in the morning, and Mincha is following Isaac's prayer in the afternoon, and Mariv is following Jacob's prayer in the evening. Okay. Other rabbis say no, it's midirabanan. It's a rabbinic decree that you have to pray 3 times a day, and that it's more as a supplement to the sacrifices that were at the temple. So there are different opinions, but it's an obligation. Okay, so first of all, something from last week. Okay, the driver prayer. Okay, if we're talking about changes that we do in our liturgy, etc. Here's a very good example of it. Here's a prayer written by my father, Rabbi Michael Graetz. You can find it on his wonderful website. This is the book my mother is referring to, Sacred Trash. You see? Okay, the lost and found world of the Cairo Genizah. Thank you very much.
I just saw you can order it on Amazon.
Yeah. It's yes.
What's the Genizah?
Oh, I will answer that in a minute. Okay. Okay. So, just going back to our PowerPoint. So, I said last time my father wrote a prayer for the driver, because we all, which is like a more modern thing, but as drivers, this is a beautiful prayer. I want to just read it and acknowledge it because people were asking me about it last time. Our God and God of our ancestors, God of Abraham and Sarah, God of Isaac and Rebekah, God of Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. May we reach our destination in peace and return in peace to our homes. Imbue me with the will to discern that every human is created in your image, and that saving one person is like saving an entire world. Grant me the wisdom to understand that nothing is more precious than human life, neither time nor money, neither honor nor revenge. These are all the emotions we might have while driving. So this, like, before we start driving, we say this prayer to set us in the right place. Help me drive with care, to keep a proper distance, with manners, to yield the right of way, with awareness, to stop in time. Give me the courage to control my impulses of jealousy, competition, anger, and greed. Let there be no accident because of me, and let me not encounter disaster, so that we may serve you in truth, increasing the sanctity of life in the world, so may be your will. Amen. Okay, so nice prayer, right?
Would never think that.
Right?
I would just never think anything
Yeah, you just
like
get in
that.
your car and drive.
Yeah. So this is like a meditation.
Yeah, it's like being mindful.
As we're doing one of the most dangerous things
All day.
all day. It's probably the most dangerous thing we're doing. Getting on, the road. We're praying, right? We're mindful to the fact that we want to succeed in this.
The car is a weapon.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Los Angeles.
Yeah. Right. We're going to spread this around. So that's a very good.
On billboards. It should be on a little thing you could hang from your mirror.
Right. That's a good idea.
Just be kind and maintain your car. That would be good enough.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So, can you change prayer? Liturgy prayers. Changes in liturgy and changes in prayers. So, from a halakhic point of view, which means like from a legal point of view, the answer is yes. Okay, and we talked about it. Okay, if you've been here through the last 9 lessons, we know that although sacred prayer does have a sacred a role in our lives, it's not. It is something that comes from the heart and needs to express what we want to say at that time. And if it doesn't, we need to either change ourselves and our hearts, or to work with the prayer to better reflect what it is for us. So, and we know that because allowing people to pray in any language shows that, right? When we read from the Torah, you can't read it in a different language. You have to read it in Hebrew. You have to read it from the text. You can't change one word in the Torah. It's sacred, and it's like it's codex. It's locked in. Like no one can make any change in it.
Rabbi?
Prayer is different. Prayer is done from a siddur, okay, from a prayer book. We have different prayer books here today to show you. And making changes in them reflect our beliefs at a certain period of time, which might change throughout the years. Yeah?
Yeah, but in the Torah, aren't there some disagreements over some words because of the way letters, like a resh and a daled, very similar, and the meaning would change depending on how you actually read it?
I know, but even these things are codex. Even those things that there's like, it's written in a certain way, but you pronounce it in a different way. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what you're referring to. Even that's already, it's like codex, and it's like you can't change that. You can't one day, I'll read it this way, or the other day I'll read it the other way. You have to read it in a certain way, even if it's written in a different way.
I was just thinking that, or I thought there were a few words where they really weren't sure what the meaning, what that word was, because of whether it was the scribe.
I'm not aware of that. Yeah.
Rabbi, but in the prayer book, I know the wording has changed and become modernized, and if you look at different prayer books, or maybe even between conservative and reform, The Hebrew is still all the same, it's just the English that's been modernized, or,
I'm sorry, can you repeat it? If everyone could just turn off cell phones, please? Yeah.
you know, sometimes when you read a prayer, the English has changed from this version
Right.
to that version.
Right.
The Hebrew still stays the same, this is a
Although
translation to make it
sometimes
more
the
egalitarian or
Hebrew,
more modern.
no, but also the Hebrew would change as well. Okay, and we will see these changes in a moment. Okay.
What do you consider where it's some sidurs, they'll, for Yud Hey, Vav Hey, some will say Adonai, some of a different term for God. Is there any agreement on that?
No, I think every siddur sort of like chooses the way they wanna do it. There are different, reasons for that. Okay, so now another story that tells us that you can make changes in prayer are the stories that we read a few weeks ago when we were talking about this. This time where there was an incident where one student descended to serve as prayer leader before the ark in the presence of Rabbi Eliezer, and he was excessively prolonging his prayer. Okay, so he was making it longer. Okay, and then if you remember, we read the opposite, that there was again an incident where one student descended to serve as prayer leader before the ark in the presence of Rabbi Eliezer, and he was excessively abbreviating his prayer. Okay, so we see that in ancient times, there wasn't a fixed prayer in the sense like it is today. People were more flexible with that. Sometimes they would make it longer if it was like, I don't know, supplications for something. Maybe on Shabbat there was more time. And maybe on a weekday when they were rushing to get to the fields early because it would be in the summer, it would get hot very soon. So maybe they got the prayer shortened. Okay, so that ability to make the prayer longer or shorter, abbreviated or extended, shows us that changes were made in liturgy. Okay, do you understand? Do you understand why that's like that serves as a proof? So I want to look at a few changes in blessings in prayer. In the examples I gave you here, okay, I want to give you the first. You see where it says morning blessings. Wait, I think we have.
I got two of the same pages.
We have morning blessing.
What?
They're two different.
No,
No,
we
they're the
have,
same.
I'm sure.
Morning blessings and then this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got two of the same.
I have two different.
Should be two different ones.
I got two of the same.
Okay, I have two different ones.
Let me see, oh, yes.
Okay, so you could take a pen and write down, but you see where it says morning blessings? Okay, so hold this page.
Yes.
On the top part,
Ellen, are those?
Those are first pages, that's.
Yeah.
on the top part, and I forgot to write this down, the top part is from an Orthodox Siddur, okay?
Oh, now I have two pages.
And the bottom part is the conservative Siddur. Okay? The top part where it says morning blessings, Shachari 26. Okay? And then that's the Orthodox, and the conservatives where it says morning blessings, Shachari 28. Okay? I want to read with you the first, the prayers. Wait, can you show me that page?
This one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, so I'm sorry. What I need from you, I made a mistake. Disregard what I said. This is all the Orthodox.
Okay.
Okay? You need to hold the conservative Siddur, take it in your hands, okay? Everyone take the red Siddurim. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Look at the table.
I forgot. I'm like looking, where's the conservative version? Where's the conservative version? And then I forgot. I didn't want to print the conservative version because I want you to open it and look at it in this your Siddur.
Funny.
Okay?
Thank you.
And I need one as well because I
Yes.
don't know by
Well,
heart.
just a minute.
Thank you
We'll
so
pass
much.
one out.
Okay? Now, please open.
Okay.
You
Here
need to
we
share?
go, ladies, gentlemen.
What page is it, Larry? The Birkot HaShachar?
I don't know off the top of my head. Obviously, it's in the beginning.
Yeah, right. Okay. Okay.
I wonder if when it's all.
103. 103. Open up the red book on page 103. And if there are not enough, please share. Because we should share. Okay. So, I will read the first blessing. Okay. I want you to hold the page and put it like here next to the English translation of the conservative Siddur with the red Siddur. That's our Siddur that we use. Okay? So look at the Orthodox one. Okay? It says, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gives the heart understanding to distinguish day from night." What does it say on the English version? I'm sorry, in the conservative Siddur? Okay, on page 103. Baruch atah Adonai, which is the same thing. Blessed are you, God, sovereign of time and space. Okay, which is a different translation of that. Who enables the bird to distinguish day from night. Okay, so this is almost the same. It's a different translation, but it kind of like means the same. Okay, it's either the heart to distinguish day from night, or it's really the bird, which is the more literal translation. Because the Hebrew version talks about the bird, distinguishing, it's like the rooster, distinguishing between day and night. Okay, so the Orthodox Siddur is a more, more allegoric translation, and the conservative Siddur is more literal translation. But they mean the same. Now, look at the next one. And we're not going to read the whole lesson. We're just going to read the ones who hasn't. Okay. So you see in the Orthodox one, it says, "Who has not made me a heathen." Okay, which means that did not make me a non-Jew. Okay, that's like the translation. And the conservative one says, "Who made me in the divine image." Okay? And that's very interesting, right? You could say it in a negative form, "Who has not made me a non-Jew," which is a traditional prayer. Or you could say it in the positive form, "Who made me in the divine image." So I'm not saying who I'm not, I am saying who I am.
It's the same because it's a double negative.
What is?
The Orthodox did not make me a non.
A double negative in English is a positive.
What's a double negative?
Not
negatives
and
there.
non.
I don't think that applies here.
No.
Oh,
No, I'm just letting
Okay.
him know.
So the traditional prayer, which is from the ancient, this is the traditional a version of it, is basically saying, okay, I praise you, God, for making me a Jew and not a non-Jew. Okay, so it's negative on the non-Jews in the sense that thank God I'm not a non-Jew. But if we look at if we try to understand the context of when it was written, when Jews were in distress and under Roman Empire and ruling, and a lot of animosity between the nations that suppressed the Jews, so they felt a little bit good when saying this. They blessed. They felt somewhat superior in that sense, and maybe gave them some comfort, and maybe it's what they believed. But in the conservative movement, when they came in the 20th century to sort of like figure out, is this how we want to express our prayer in the modern era, in the way we look at non-Jews? Okay, the feeling was that maybe we could say it in a more positive form, not what we don't want to be, but we want to be in the divine image.
But is it, I would interpret it slightly differently and say
Okay.
that the positive side is you have blessed me to be a person to follow your laws and guidance, whereas I don't know what the definition for heathen is going to be, but it's someone who doesn't know, doesn't follow, or, for whatever reason.
Yeah. No, I definitely, so that's another explanation to say it, is to say it, yeah. So, now that I am a Jew, I'm obligated. So thank you for obligating me in the mitzvot. But they could have said that, right? They didn't have to say it again in the negative form on the Jew. The same goes for the next blessing. Okay, the next blessing is, who has not made me a slave. Okay, so again, back in the ancient times, there were slaves. So if I was a slave, it's not a great thing to be a slave. It's better to be a free person. And also, I don't have to do the mitzvot. Okay, so I'd rather be obligated and do the mitzvot, because the slave did not have to do the mitzvot. Okay, so the conservative movement translation again said, "Who made me free?" Okay, so so that's another one. Okay, and
Who not made me a woman.
okay, now this is a very controversial one. Okay, very famous, and it says, for men say, who has not made me a woman, and women say, who has made me according to his will. Okay, which is like, it's not that, it's like, you could have done better, made me a man, okay, but if that was your will. So, okay, so go ahead.
I would look at that as the same.
No, yeah, no, but Larry's right. Like the traditional way that the tradition said, no, this doesn't come to insult women. This really just comes to say that because I'm not a woman, I'm obligated by the mitzvot. Now, the conservative movement has two problems here. First of all, we're egalitarian. So women and men are obligated by the same mitzvot. We have girls who bat mitzvah, they read from the Torah, they're obligated like in the same way men are, okay? So that's issue number one that we have with this blessing. And then it also it doesn't sound that great, that men, stand up and like in my kids went to a synagogue, not a synagogue, they went to a religious Orthodox school in Israel. It was like right side out of our house. And, they had good education there, but they would pray every morning and they would say that. And like, I would tell them like, this is what they say in the school. It's not like, it's not the right thing. And at a certain point, and there are other parents as well that told their kids the same thing. And then like one brave kid said like, I'm not going to say it. And the teachers were upset with him. It was like a big, thing. But everyone's like, yeah, like you got the right education. So you don't want to say, all these boys in the morning and all these men are saying, thank you God for not making me a woman. Okay, we say, She'asani Israel, that made me a Jew. Okay, every Jew is obligated by the mitzvot. Okay, so thank you God for making me a Jew in that sense. So not a man or not a woman. Some people say, no, you know what? Men should also say what the women say. Okay, who has made me according to his will. To whatever will you made me, that's who I am. Okay, and so some people don't say the negative form on the woman, but what the women say is in a positive form. Okay, because God made me according to his will. Yeah.
So both of the versions of the prayer are addressing the same aspects of how we're approaching the new day. A new
Right.
day. So my question is, they're all both talking about the same issues. So how is it that they're different from each other? I mean, aside from like the thinking that we're talking about now, was there like one that was the original one and then people came along and said, oh, we don't like this and so this is what we're gonna have, or?
So the question, are you talking about the Hebrew or the English?
Well, it's the sentiment of both of them. And
Right, so the translation, these are the same, when you move forward, Okay, so look at the next, where it says 28, who gives sight to the blind, okay? And that is exactly the same in the conservative, right? You see on page 103, who gives sight to the blind. No controversial there, okay? The next one, who clothes the naked, what is the translation in conservative, Siddur? The same, who clothes the naked. If you move on to the next page, 104, okay, it says, who sets captives free. So here it's like who releases the bound. Okay, so whatever. It's like, but it's it's exactly the same translation, exactly the same meaning. So to answer your question, okay, 85% of prayer in the conservative Siddur today, I'm making up a number, maybe it's 80%, maybe it's 90%, but it's around that, okay, is similar for the Orthodox and the conservative, okay? Reform is different, okay? I'm not an expert on Reform Tfilah, but we could, we'll touch on that in a minute. But the changes that the conservative movement did were ideological changes that they felt that can no longer be said in the Orthodox way, because of like, we don't want to insult non-Jews, we don't want to insult, women, etc. Okay, so the prayer has stayed the same, but there were some ideological changes that were made. Okay,
When was the change?
The conservative movement in the 20th century,
Previous.
like in each set of change happened, like different times. The next example,
It almost seems to me like the word woman and slave are interchangeable. No, I'm serious.
in what here? In
Yeah,
what way? I
In
understand.
the prayer, the morning prayer. Don't make me a woman, don't make me a slave,
Oh, yeah, well,
Don't
that's
make
the
me
meaning.
non-Jew.
That's the meaning. It's like,
Don't make
thank
me
God for
non-Jew.
making me man, okay? And some, maybe a more feminist approach would also say, thank God for making me a man, so I'm not a woman that is subordinate to her husband, and I'm not a slave who's subordinate to their masters. I'm a free person. I'm like on the top of the chain, and the others are not, So it's like, thank God for making me that. Okay, so that sort of like is a thinking that maybe belongs to previous centuries, and the thinking that the conservative movement now was to bring everyone sort of like on the same level. The next example is on the next page, and again, this entire page is from the Orthodox Siddur, which means it's been the prayer that's been recited for years after years after years, or for thousands of years, or at least 1,000 years, and then please move to page 188A. 188A. And you see, at the bottom of 188, you see where it says, not bottom, in the middle, may it be your will. Okay, so I want you to do the following. I want you to have two fingers, one on the conservative one and one on the Orthodox. And when there's a change, I want you to go, so we know to stop. And okay, so
Where are we on the,
right
We're on the other page. The second paper.
We're on the second page?
on the page, you see where it says "May be your will" on the top of the page.
Yep,
Oh, I do now.
Okay, and then 188 in the middle.
we got it.
Okay, you gotta focus. May it be your will, Adonai, our God, and God of our ancestors.
Which one are you reading?
I'm reading the conservative one, and I want you to read the Orthodox one.
Right.
Okay? Who restores their descendants.
This one says to lead.
Okay? Okay, it's different translation. To their land. Okay, to lead us there in joy and to plant us in our borders where our ancestors once offered to you their sacrifices. What does the Orthodox one say?
We will prepare.
Obligatory offerings.
Offerings.
Yeah, obligatory
Okay.
offerings.
So this is a dramatic change. The Orthodox Siddur is saying we are going to go back to Israel and we're going to build the temple
Rebuild the temple.
to
Yeah.
start sacrificing the same sacrifices like they did thousands of years ago. The conservative Siddur says something different. We're going to go back to Israel. Okay, we're going to rebuild the temple, but we're not going to, I mean, it's not saying we're not going to renew the sacrifices, but we're acknowledging that our ancestors did that. We're not going to do that. Okay? That's the subtext. Okay, let's continue. The daily sacrifices in their proper order, as well as the additional offerings prescribed for holy days. Lovingly, the additional Shabbat sacrifices were offered there as you commanded. Okay, and here in the Orthodox Siddur it says, and the additional offering of this Shabbat day will prepare and offer you in love in accord with your will commandment, as you wrote for us in your Torah through your servant Moses by your own word, meaning this is what we're going to do. We will prepare these offerings. Okay? In the conservative Siddurs, they prepared it in past tense. It's not something that's going to happen again. And then it says, okay, as it is fulfilling the word spoken in Revelation and written down by Moses, your servant, in your Torah, on Sabbath, 2 yearling lambs. And this is now a quote of these offerings that will be done. So, very important dramatic change here. The Orthodox Siddur says, we're going back to Israel, we're building a temple, and what are we going to do? We're going to bring these offerings. We're going to bring 2 lambs of a year old without blemish, together with 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour, and we're going to burn it, and we're going to have these sacrifices. The conservative Siddur is saying, no. When we go back to the temple, we're not going to bring these sacrifices. This is something that was done in the past.
Well, Rabbi,
Okay.
I thought Rabbinic Judaism did away with the whole sacrifice. How did the Orthodox prayer then develop?
No. So this is a very important thing. Although the prayers came to substitute sacrifices, in their mind, it's a temporary substitute until the temple is rebuilt, and then we'll be done with prayer and we'll be able to go back to sacrifices. But a lot has happened since. 2,000 years have passed by. Okay, so ignoring that reality of maybe 2,000 years ago, people thought that let's wait 50 years, 100 years from now. Okay, we'll be back to our country and we'll build a temple like the Romans do, like the Greeks do. We'll just do it the same. But 2,000 years later, to come and say we will do copy-paste what was done back then is very different. Okay, now if it was something that was in the Bible, so okay, it's a commandment, it's a Bible, there's nothing you could do about it. But it's prayer. Prayer has to reflect what your thoughts and aspirations are now. Most Orthodox people that I know say to me, there's no way we want the sacrifice being built there. We don't want a third temple that will have the bloodbath, of slaughtering the animals. The blood is flowing on the floors. I guess it used to be a very exciting and spiritual experience thousands of years ago. I can't imagine that today. Okay, so things have changed. Humanity has changed. And therefore they say, even my Orthodox colleagues and friends, like, no, it's not going to happen. So my question is to them, why are you praying this? Why are you saying? So the classic Orthodox answer is, what could I do? This is the prayer. We can't change the prayer. My answer is no, that is not true. You can not only you can change prayer, you have to change prayer to reflect what's in your heart and what you feel. You're able, if you're not able to say some things because of these strong ideological reasons, it might be that prayer needs to change often. So again, if we look at the big picture and we say 85% of the conservative Siddur is the same like the Orthodox Siddur, it means like most of the things are, nothing new. Like we still have the same aspirations in prayer. But the 15% or maybe less, maybe more, that has changed reflect these things that you can't do it anymore. You have to make these changes. Do you understand like the concept? Okay. So these are like two very good examples. One from like the more like the feminist perspective, the egalitarian's perspective that shows us where the conservative movement came with its changes, and the other aspect is more like the times of change and our relationship to animals and to humanity and to what it means to have that blood bath, the butcher, like in the temple, will that really sanctify and glorify God's name? So it's a very big dispute between the conservative and Orthodox movement, but it was like a good way to explain to you what are the differences between these streams of Judaism. So you got yes.
Isn't part of the problem due with translation? I mean, it's
not in this one. Not in this one. This is not a translation issue.
When you're translating the Hebrew into any language, I mean, that whatever culture that is, whether it's Spanish, French, whatever, they're going to interpret.
Well, usually that's true, but here the Hebrew says the same. The conservative movement Hebrew changed. It's not like the Orthodox Siddur. So the Hebrew aligns with the English in the conservative movement. So they changed the Hebrew as well. Yes, George?
In terms of relative percentages within Judaism, what percentage roughly would you say are conservative, Orthodox, Reform? If those are the three major
I was thinking that too.
populations. I'm just curious.
How about not aligned?
Well,
You mean
Yeah.
what numbers?
Just a rough percentage, are 50% of Jews conservative? Are 50% of Jews Orthodox? Are 50% of Jews something
Well,
else?
Unaffiliated.
It goes by
I'm
it
just
goes
curious.
by country.
Just
Like
a rough estimate.
yeah, like in America where there's like 6 million Jews, I think 34% are Reform, 20-something% are conservative, and 10% are Orthodox, and many are
They have more babies, so
unaffiliated,
watch out.
and a lot of are unaffiliated.
But when you say unaffiliated, maybe what I think of as unaffiliated is different than
It could be.
because when I think of unaffiliated, I think of like being a member of a synagogue. And you could not be a member of a synagogue, but also be either like Reform within you or conservative
The recent
within
survey
you.
took that into account. The recent survey, the numbers I'm telling you are not affiliated, man, not membership dues.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so that's it takes that into account. There's just a lot of Jews that don't I'm not even Reform. I'm like I'm a cultural Jew. I'm a
Yes.
Jew. Like just don't ask me what I
I'm a
am.
Can I
gastronomist.
just explain
Yeah.
why I ask? I'm just trying to understand, in Judaism, which of these two or three concepts, the very strict traditionalist, the more contemporary, is the more popular? If not, I'm trying to use popular to equate with
Numbers.
correct, I guess. Not really correct, that doesn't really sound right, but what's more popular? Is it more popular to be very traditional in Judaism, or is it more popular to be more conservative?
No, look, in Israel there may be 25% that are Orthodox. Okay, there is 40% are traditionalists.
Is that conservative? I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
What does
no.
traditionalist mean? I'm sorry.
Traditional means that more like a Sephardi background from Arab countries. They don't have the definitions of Reform, Conservative, Orthodox because that's more like something that's more American. Okay. And a lot of them are traditional. They would go to the synagogue on the high holidays, maybe Friday night, but then they would like go to the soccer game or go out partying or something like that. Okay. So they're like in between. There's like 30% secular, in Israel. And there's like maybe 5% that would say they're conservative and reform together. Yeah. In Israel, it's much smaller.
Interesting.
Okay. So if you add up the numbers, you see that Orthodox is not the majority around the world, neither in Israel nor in America. But because they are more committed in the sense that, they go to synagogue every day, they observe the mitzvot, etc. So they're more present, okay, in the public sphere.
You see them, you know them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I'm trying to draw a little bit of a parallel from my background in Catholicism. In Catholicism,
I know, but we're very much off the topic. Yeah. We will have a discussion when we get to sociology of Judaism. We will talk specifically about that. Yeah.
Rabbi, do they whoever decides all this, do they decide like every 50 years or every 100 years we're going to get together and see if we have to change anything?
That's
Or
a
is it,
very good question. Changes start really root grass changes. The rabbis don't sit and say, "Oh, should we make a change today?" Rabbis don't want to make any changes. Rabbis like, I'm happy the way it is. Like, if my congregation is happy, it's like, why make any changes? Changes come from bottom up. Like women that would say, "How come you're saying, like in the 20th century, how come can you say, blessed you God that didn't make me?" I'm offended. I don't want that. Okay, girls who were like studying this, because girls didn't study at all, like in the Cheder and back then in the 19th century and the 18th century and before, women were not aware of these things. Okay, they had maybe prayers in Yiddish. They didn't care what the boys said, and if they cared, there's like shush. But women that are now in the front of society. Feminism. So all of these are like external influences, but they slowly simmer into the synagogues, into the schools, into the homes, and people come and even in an Orthodox family, if you send your girls to university and they come back with ideas, so they start asking questions. And that's how changes, slowly start.
Even within the Orthodox, there are variations.
Yeah. This is what I'm saying. Even in the Orthodox, there are different variations, okay? A good proof that there are variations in prayer, another way to show that there are variations of prayer, because this is what we're talking about, liturgical changes, is that there's not just one Siddur. If there was just one, we would all have the same. Maybe every 50 years we would print a new version because it was like, we'd get like, our hands moving in and everything. We'd have to get like new Siddurim. That's what usually happens. But no, every time there's a new Siddur, we also make changes. Okay, why? Because it reflects changes people want to make. So I think it was done in the 80s. This was done like, 5 years ago or something like that. This is like the new Siddur. Okay, and then there are other Siddurim as well. Elizabeth brought me a Siddur today, and you bought this or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, you paid
Ordered
good.
it. I did a search and then I ordered it off Amazon because I was trying to find something that if I was on Zoom I could follow along. looked exactly like the one here, and then when it arrived, it was in a little skinny envelope. I was like, whoops, not the same.
Yeah.
So I brought it to show Rabbi.
Right, so before you buy your next door, consult your rabbi. Okay, yeah.
Don't do it. I no, it's kind of
Right.
nice though. I mean, it's small.
It's very nice, and I've never seen it. Okay, it's a really very nice siddur. And when I open it, I says, oh, okay, this is like an Orthodox siddur. I thought, because it basically has all the traditional prayers, but then when I get to the Amida, I see that it also adds the matriarchs. Okay, and I want everyone to open on page. This is another very important change. Okay, page 185. Okay, and the siddur that Elizabeth brought me also has the same thing. Okay, it has. You see, like it says on page 85, 185, you see it says the first bracha are ancestors with patriarchs, with patriarchs and matriarchs. Okay, so even in the conservative movement, there are two versions. There's the traditional version, which I would say Orthodox, but here it's also in the conservative siddur, where you don't add the matriarchs. And there is the egalitarian version where you do add the matriarchs. The patriarchs are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the founders of our religion. And the argument was that if we have, patriarchs, we should probably recognize the matriarchs, because we didn't come to this world from the patriarchs. We had a few matriarchs that helped us get here.
Luggage to carry.
Okay, yeah,
Hello,
exactly,
Samsonite.
right? And their names are mentioned in the Bible. They are important characters in the Bible. Okay, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. They each have their own story, and they each, Sarah following Abraham and coming to Israel, building this faith in this land. Okay, Rebecca that chose to come and join Isaac and give birth to Jacob and Esau, but then promoting Jacob, and then Rachel and Leah that give birth to the 12 tribes. Okay, they did it. So this is why the prayer here recognizes them and their role. But some people say you can't make changes like that. So there's an argument, even in the conservative movement, between the more traditionalist and the more, feminist, I would say. And that's why they have both versions here. So every cantor could choose, or every synagogue could choose which they want. Okay, I'm more traditionalist on a lot of things, as you know, but on this, I'm actually more egalitarian and feminist, because I think we have to read the ones with the matriarchs. Okay, I got good education at home with
I was gonna
my
say,
feminist mother and feminist father.
And two daughters.
Okay,
and daughters.
and right, and
Raising two
daughters,
girls.
and right, exactly. I have two sisters, so this was something that was
Well,
very
you really had it
important.
bad. You really had it bad.
Yeah, right, from all around. So so in that sense, we sense another change between like the conservative movement. So we see more of the ideology. So in the siddur where's Larry?
You just took-
Uh-oh, was it something you
He
said?
had a whole
I know,
pile
he
of
just-
books.
No, he put it back, I think, and then he left.
He's under the table.
I just told him that's all over the table.
Oh no,
and
it's like
he just slithered out. Maybe he had to go somewhere.
No,
He
his
told-
water-
he
his
told-
water's still there.
no. He told me that he's gonna have to leave a little bit before.
Oh.
So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I have to show everyone he's doing. But Larry, at my request, brought a few siddurim from his home that like more traditional siddurim. I'm really sorry, I missed it. Okay, one of them was a siddur. I didn't look at all of it. One of them was a siddur. I think he said his mother got in the Reform movement.
In the 20s.
Okay, in the 20s,
Yeah, he had.
when she was confirmed. Okay, so that it's a very traditional Reform Siddur, but it has a lot of changes, and the Reform Siddur is very much abbreviated. And for example, some of the prayers that the conservative and the Orthodox say, they eliminated completely for ideological reasons. Another Siddur he showed me, which was really moving, was from the American Army. Okay, the American Army made Siddurim, made prayer books for soldiers, and the one he was holding was very similar to the one my grandfather had when he was a colonel in the American Army during World War II. He served in France with Patton, and the whole thing. First he was in Africa, and then in France. And we found in his stuff, we found a gun, a service gun, when he was, that was in the house all these years. We didn't know about that, and we also found this prayer book that he got there as well. The other Siddurim Larry had, I saw the black Siddur. That's like the Silverman. It's like one of the older, the more traditional conservative ones, okay, that had very few changes from the Orthodox, but it just used a more modern translation, and it was more adaptable for, like the modern Jew, because the first translations were not that great, because people didn't need the translation. A lot of people used the Hebrew or the translation, okay, or to German, but when Jews came to America, they needed translations. So sometimes the translations were good, sometimes less. So the conservative movement always tried to adapt the translation to make it as modern as, and as approachable as possible to the person. I don't remember what other Siddurim he had, but I wanted to show them around to people.
Next week I will bring, I have a white one that I got when I was confirmed, which had to be in 1958, somewhere in that area. I've never opened it, but it's.
Yeah, you keep it with you.
But the print is so small.
Okay.
This is a little white one?
Yes.
I got one.
Okay, so I wanna touch shortly on the issue of the Genizah. Okay, now that I know that you'll read the book, The Sacred Trash, okay, so I'm not gonna talk a lot about the Genizah, but the Genizah is basically a room where sacred texts that can't be used anymore were put in that room. Okay, let's say you have a Torah scroll and it's disqualified to be read from because it's got very old, or maybe something got damp. You can't read it. It can't be used anymore. You can't repair it. So you can't just throw it in the trash. You have to put it in a sacred place in the Genizah, okay, in a room that's called Genizah, which preserves it for generations to come. Some synagogues bury it in the Jewish cemetery, and some places have a room where they just keep it there. And the synagogue in Cairo, which I will tell you the story one day because it's a fascinating story, as well. Maybe we'll even watch the movie. The synagogue in Cairo had a small room there, and every time there was like a piece of paper, okay, they would put it there, okay, and it wouldn't be interesting news if not for two things. The climate in Cairo is dry and was able to preserve the text, and the other small fact is that they've been doing this since the year 800.
Wow.
Okay, so the amount of treasures that were found in the 1200 years that they had fragments there, okay, is unheard of. It's unprecedented, and it was discovered at the end of the 19th century. Okay, and that's a whole story. How it was discovered, the way it was discovered, and the whole thing there, and what was discovered there. There's so many things that were discovered there. Part of what was discovered were prayer fragments. Okay, like there's, a siddur. It's like it gets old, can't use it anymore. All the pages are falling apart. You put it in the air because you don't want to throw it to the trash. So you put it in that room. So we have siddurim, we have prayer books or fragments of prayer books. Let's say 5 pages fell off a siddur. Okay, so I put them there. So we have 5 pages of fragments of prayers from the 8th, 9th, 10th century, okay? And then the researchers start reading it. That's not the prayer we know. It's a different prayer. What is this? Okay? And then they start realizing the prayer that we're reading is similar to prayers that are in the Israelite Talmud, not in the Babylonian Talmud, meaning they realize that this is a prayer that was said in ancient Israel. Okay? So that's why it says here, the Genizah ancient Israeli, okay? And the Babylonian prayer is the current prayer that we use today. So the prayer we use today is a prayer that is very old as well, but it's not as old as the one that was found in the Cairo Genizah from ancient Israel. And that shows us how prayer has evolved and changed over the years, but it also showed us that in Babylonia they prayed it in one way, and in ancient Israel they prayed in a different way. What characterizes the ancient Israel prayer is that it's much shorter, much more concise, and there are a lot of ideological changes also between them. I'm not going to talk about all of those because I told you I'm going to give a whole series of lectures, and it's a fascinating topic. But I translated for you today 2 examples. One is the prayer that we use today, the second prayer of God's greatness, okay? And look on the right side here on the screen, look on the screen, okay? You see where it says Genizah, ancient Israeli prayer, okay? So it says, you are great and none is like you. You are strong and none will be like you, blows the wind and brings down the rain or the dew, sustains life and gives life to the dead and delivers greatly. Blessed are you, God, who gives life to the dead. Okay, this is the ancient Israel. It's much shorter. The Babylonian prayer is much longer. You're always great God. You give life to the dead and delivers greatly. In the summer, you say brings down the dew. In the winters, you say blows the wind and brings down the rain. And then sustains life with grace, gives life to the dead with great mercy, rises the fallen ones, and cures the sick, and releases those in bondage, and keeps his faith to the one sleeping in the dust. Who is like you, owner of strength, and who can be like you, king, who can kill and bring life and bring salvations, and you are trustworthy to bring dead to life. Blessed are you, God, who gives life to the dead. Because this is my translation wasn't that great, but the point I wanted to make is you see how prayers are changes. You see there are different ideas there. We're going to touch about the different ideas in a different time, but you see that there are different ideological themes here. So no one could come and tell you after you've seen this ultimate proof that everyone used to pray the same thing 2,000 years ago. If someone tells you that, you know they don't know their Judaism. Okay, even if you hear it from a very respectable rabbi, etc., it's just not true. Okay, send them to me. I'll give them the lecture. Okay, here is
There's a book that I just think is relevant now. It's this conversation. I believe it was called The Night Watchman of Cairo. It's about a family. It's a fictionalized version of exactly what we're talking about. It's about the trash that was found, and the family was given the job. It was an honorary job to passed down from generation to generation by the first male in the family to watch and care for that room and that area, right. And to preserve it and to maintain it and to make sure no harm came to it. Exactly. And how the family lived through until actually Anwar Sadat.
Beautiful.
And it's a fictionalized version of exactly this.
Yeah, because
following all
and there are
these-
movies that are
Yes,
done
it
about
goes
it.
back
It's like-
many,
I think I'm
many
gonna bring once the movie. We can watch it together. It's
Yes.
fascinating, and then I'll send you the link to it. The last one I want to end with is the prayer for peace, because we end every prayer in Judaism with peace. So I want to also show you the difference between the ancient Israeli prayer of peace and the current one. The current one, we say, put peace, goodness and blessing, grace, kindness and mercy on us and all your people of Israel. Bless us, our Father, all as one with the light of your face, because in the light of your face you gave us Torah of life, love of kindness and charity and blessings and mercy and peace. And it is good in your eyes to bless all your people Israel any moment and every hour with your peace. Blessed are you, God, who blesses his people Israel with peace. So this is a very extended version, okay, of the blessing. And it talks about the people of Israel having peace, okay, as opposed to the ancient Israeli one, which says, put your peace on Israel, your people, on your city, which is Jerusalem, on your land, the land of Israel, and bless us all as one. Blessed are you, God, the home blessing and maker of peace. Okay, very different, right? So here it could be interpreted as peace for the whole world, okay, not just for the people of Israel, okay? There is a distinguish, like the people of Israel are the ones that are praying, that they're the ones that are asking. But God is really the source of all blessing. He's the home of all blessings, maker of peace for the entire humanity in that sense. And it's not just God bless just the people of Israel with peace, okay? And this shows you the different ideology, the one that's written in Babylonia and the one that's written in Israel. Because when you write a prayer like this in Babylonia, in Israel, when you're in your own homeland, maybe in a sovereign country, this was written thousands of years ago, maybe the feeling is like, we don't need a special blessing. Obviously we want peace for Israel and blessing, but we're able to bless the whole world in that sense. But maybe when you're in Babylonia and you're a minority and you feel sort of like, the other big powers are all, over me, maybe then I feel more in distress and I feel like, you know what, God, give blessing for the people of Israel. I don't care about the others. So maybe that mentality of living in exile created a prayer that sort of like just protected it to be able to visit. It's just for us. And maybe a prayer in Israel that was written felt more generous in that sense, and the ability to maybe the peace doesn't just have to be for us, or maybe we don't have to express it. It is just for us, but we don't have to specify that it's just for us. You understand? So like different themes and different ways of use could create different prayer and different changes. So this really concludes our, I think, 10 lessons on prayer. We didn't touch about the last question, does God answer prayer? And I asked you, some of you, did anyone do the assignment?
I was playing mahjong.
Okay, you didn't do the assignment, so I won't give you the answer. We'll leave that open. I do want to end by saying, like on earlier this week, this kid David Spierer from our congregation, his mother Cindy, came and asked me a few questions about being a rabbi, etc. And he asked, does prayer matter? 10-year-old kid. It was like fascinating. I said, I don't know, but I believe it matters in the way, to me, like when I say a prayer, it matters, it changed something in my heart. And my prayer, my belief is that it also changes something in God's world. Okay, and there's a very famous research that people that are sick and when a group of people prays for them, they heal faster. Okay, it's
Energy.
it's an energy thing. So I truly believe that God answers prayers. The thing is, he doesn't answer the prayers always in the order that we want them, in exactly the color of the car that we want, or the amount of money that we want in the bank, or for our children to be married with the person that we want, or for this and this. He has, different plans in that sense, but I do believe that God answers our prayer. It's been a pleasure doing this series with you. Okay, so it concludes our 10-week on prayer, or even more. And we will continue next week with Purim. We'll take a break, and then after Purim, we will start with kashrut, the keeping kosher, all those laws of eating, cooking, baking in a kosher way, keeping a kosher home and synagogue, the rules of how it started in the Bible, and how it, came to being today
So class next week, class next week, and then
on Purim. Yeah.
the week after.
And the week after, yeah. On Passover, we will stop once. On Passover, there's one Wednesday that we won't meet. And the synagogue is going to be closed here on Passover. And
So
Yeah.
there is class next week.
yeah.